What a day it has been. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel. My name is Valkyrie of Verdure. It's Valkyrie of the Veil. That's like the way easier translation. People are always asking me how to pronounce it, so that is the English version. Congrats. There it is. Today we're looking at September 11th astrology transit updates. Before we get started though, if you're interested in my other offerings, there's sessions, there's updates on the blog, there's email updates on that blog too. If you want to sign up, you get email updates. Shout out to that, super great. Also, that has been growing. So has my TikTok recently. So just generally speaking, my pages have been doing really well. And if you're a part of that, thank you. My gratitude to you. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, wow. Moving forward into today's transits, because we have this moment right now that I'm really grateful for. I'm very grateful for this time in space in astrology currently, because we had how many days? It was like over a week. It was like over a week long. I'm looking at my calendars on the side over here. You can't see them in frame, but they're up on the wall. And it was like a whole week. We had a whole week of just conjunction after conjunction after conjunction after conjunction. And it was honestly a lot. From when was it? It started August 31st. Venus entered Libra the 29th of August. We had a dark moon, south node conjunction for 9 days. That started on the 31st. It started on the 30th, depending on the time zone that you were in. Regardless of that though, moving on and moving forward, there was like several other transits that were conjunct in the middle of the previous week. There's nada really going on up until we get to that full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces on the 17th of September. And I'm grateful for this. We have a period of just like chill. The moon will be moving and changing, and that's going to shift our aspects and different things. But other than the moon transit, we don't have a bunch of like big planet crossings or anything like that. So this is really a time over the next several days, this day included, to really like rest. Okay, there's been a lot of shakeups, a lot of shifts, a lot of drifts, a lot of shadows coming to the light. There's been a lot of alterations. So if you're resting in those alterations, one of the analogies I've been working with recently is having the snow globe. Like we're shaking up the snow globe at the beginning of this moon cycle, new moon in Virgo, when it was on September 3rd. We shook up the snow globe, and now we're letting all of it just like settle back down. It's gonna get shaken up a couple more times through the season of the eclipses, but today we're still letting things come to the ground. We have a couple of interesting oppositions that are happening in the chart right now. And opposition, simply put, is literally they are on the opposite sides of the chart. The way that I read oppositions is to literally, like if you're looking at a round table, say that you were at a round table with a whole bunch of people and you're having a meal, if you're going to talk to the person that's straight across the table from you and like from the widest part of the circumference, that conversation is not going to be private. It's going to influence the other conversations that are happening. You might have eavesdroppers, you might have people who join in. You also too may not get to have the conversation that you want with that person, and anytime you're talking to that person, it could be pretty serious, and you have to be really intentional so that there's not any miscommunication happening, because there could be. Also, probably you've seated those people, I just thought about this, you probably seated those people far away from each other for a reason and a purpose. Let them be far away from each other. Anyways, so we have several different oppositions happening on this day. The moon is going to be opposite Jupiter, which is quite curious because the moon is in Sagittarius, and that is ruled by Jupiter. And Jupiter is in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. Mercury right now is in Virgo. So we're looking at the inflation, expansion of information with Jupiter and Gemini. But while Mercury is in Virgo, it's in a very indirect way. So like, how we alter our body, the food that we're eating, that's going to change the information that's coming through. It, strangely enough, like if you realize that how you're working out or how you're like, how do I say this? How you're working out or how you're feeding yourself or like the type of food that you're feeding yourself, that is going to change the way that you receive communicatory information while Jupiter is in Gemini and Mercury is in Virgo. So that's one part of this opposition. The other part is our first quarter moon in Sagittarius leading up to the eclipse next week. Now, that first quarter moon, I said it yesterday, I'll say it again, is very directional of where are we going, what are we expanding into, not just for this moon cycle, but for like the next several months and also through a lot of next year. Like, where do we want to end up? We have this opportunity to kind of look into our future and be like, I think that might be actually what I want. Is that what I want? Let me confront what I want and understand, and then open my hand and let it land. Okay, beautiful. I'm grateful for that. It's been quite serious over here. It's just a serious time in our transits, generally speaking. So if that's something that you're working with, congratulations on being able to handle the seriousness, even if it's not very easy, because sometimes in the denseness, it's not very easy. That opposition offers us an emotional change of position. You might find yourself doing some extra research today on, say that you are looking at those directions, especially because the moon has been in Sagittarius for a whole day now. So we've had time to kind of like sit and digest the emotions of this moon. And now that those emotions hopefully are being put more to rest, we're being able to not only digest, but say, okay, like, where is this going? Do I need more information? What information do I need? How do I bring in that information so that I'm able to make that transition and make that expansion? We also right now have Mars in Cancer, and that's going to be influenced by that moon in Sagittarius. So we're really strategizing. This is a day for research. You need to have some conversations. Hello, hi, hey, I need to strategize about this. We need to get some notes together. I need to get some things put on paper or stuck up in my brain so that I don't have to over explain later on, and I can just go. I can just keep it moving and grooving. This is also a good time now in your magical practices to ask for support if you feel like it's necessary in the spirit of things. If you're someone who makes offerings or you're someone who calls on the spirits, then right now is a great time to, if you feel like you need it, discernment for yourself, okay? Ask for support with that journey into that future position. It could be a time to bring in offerings of the change in position, or to make offerings so that you're able to make those transitions with the support of the spirit realms. So if that is something that you are involved in your practice, beautiful. If it's something that you're not involved in with your practice and it's something that you want to start, I'm gonna make a video about offerings and I'm gonna link it somewhere up there. That is like one of the big oppositions that we have going on. Also too, because Jupiter is in the opposition to the sign that it rules, it actually is a little bit more comfortable. It's like best friends got seated across the table from each other. You might not be the most comfortable because you would rather be sitting right next to your best friend, right? But it's like best friends got seated across the table from each other, and it's like, oh, hi bestie, what's up? I didn't know you were gonna be here. And they're able to have a conversation. And there could be some things that, again, are a little bit more indirect. Mercury is in Virgo. Could be a little bit more indirect. You know, like, you and your best friend can talk with your eyes a little bit, okay? There's some things that go unsaid. There's some things that don't need to be said but can be read. You know what I mean? Best friends are great. So if you have that information coming through about strategies and where you're going and what you want to do, and you're doing the research, have those conversations with yourself. Be a best friend to you on this day about that information. And if you need to call up a best friend to strategize, probably a good idea. If trusted sources. Hey, hi, what's up? I need some help. Okay, if that is true for you. It might not be. You might have to strategize with yourself. But anyways, that's one of the big ones. Venus is moving deeper into Libra. Now, Venus will not be in Libra for the Libra eclipse that's happening in October. It's going to be in Scorpio. So we have this moment while Venus is in Libra to just get really, really comfortable with the receiving and the giving process. What are we really worth? What kind of work have we done on ourselves with ourselves over the previous year to a year and a half about, oh my goodness, I remember where I was a year and a half ago. You remember where you were a year and a half ago? I remember where I was a year and a half ago, and I remember breadcrumbs. I am so over that, and I'm so grateful I have moved over into where I am now, because leave it be, you know? It needed to be at the time, but it's not anymore. So there could be some recoverings or understandings about those different cycles, especially with it being this moment of eclipse season and Venus being in one of its home signs. So if you're having that sort of information come through, it's also probably going to have a big conversation with healing of the masculine, overgiving, not giving enough, people not giving enough to you, you receiving more of what you didn't actually need or want. those could be some themes that are coming up. Also, those themes in more of like an innocent aspect, or just because you didn't know any better, or because of some sort of trauma trigger also, because that Venus in Libra is going to be in opposition to a Chiron retrograde that is in Aries. These are also going to be really big conversations with the Venus and the Chiron, because they are in the signs where the North Node and the South Node is, and we are literally a week away-ish from the eclipses. It's like a week and a day, about. Okay, is it really actually? Yeah, we're literally a week. Oh my God, we're like less than a week away. Oh my gosh. It could be some really big stuff from years and years and years and years prior. Also, speaking of the Pluto and Capricorn stuff that's going on right now, it could be stuff from like 2008 and onwards, especially when it comes to your physically intimate partners or people who have been intimate in your life, emotionally, intellectually, or in intimate spaces, however that might relate to where you are and what you do and how you practice your world when it comes to intimacy. Pluto has a lot to do with our body contracts. How do we exchange with other ancestral lineages, okay? There's a lot of different ways that that can happen. It can happen in literal, physical, written contracts. Most of the time, Pluto contracts are not written, though. They're usually a little sneaky. They're a little sneaky. They get a little bit sneaky, and they have a little under the radar. You gotta pay attention to them. You gotta look at them. You gotta say, oh yeah, that was activated. I reaped that. I sowed that. You gotta look at it with Pluto. So with that going on right now too, we're like super heavy on the previous partners not giving us enough, offering too much of what we didn't need, us overgiving to them. It's like just the out of balance cycles with giving and receiving with people that we've been intimately involved with. That's something that is going to be coming up for now and probably like the next couple of days. So just, be aware of it as it starts to happen. Also with the dark moon in Libra, we're being asked to call our power back from those situations, and not just call our power back, but balance the scales. Balance the scales. We're being asked to balance the scales through a retrieval of our power and understanding how we can be rooted in more of our power and not have to be stuck in those cycles of the over giving or not receiving enough or receiving too much, all that stuff. So that's another big opposition that we're working with. And then the other opposition, this is a day of opposings, my goodness. The other opposition that we're working with is the sun in Virgo, and I almost said in Mercury, but you know what? I suppose that's true. Mercury is also in Virgo, so we're super, super in the Virgo energy. I've been feeling it. You know what? I've been working out more. I've been feeling good with like the food I've been putting in my body. I love Virgo and 6th house placements, so shout out to Virgos and Virgo placements. Thank you for being you. That's true. That is happening in opposition to our Saturn retrograde in Pisces. So right now we're in the retrieval process. So much going back right now and looking at different things while we're like looking forward into the future too. It's crazy. It's a crazy thing to be like, oh yeah, I remember that 3 years ago. Oh, I remember that 5 years ago. And to look into the future and be like, oh, so that I could be there in 5 years. That's a lot of time. Saturn retrograde, being in that opposition to the sun in Virgo, is asking us to look at how our spiritual practices combine with our physical practices of eating. Do you pray before you eat? Do you wash your hands before you eat? Do you wash your hands before you cook? What's the order of that? How do you cut up your food? How do you cook the food? You put the oil in the pan before you put the food in the pan? There's so many different orders and directions and what it means for you. Do you thank the food? Do you ask the food to do certain stuff? With your workouts, are your workouts somehow ingrained with spiritual practices? I've heard of people dedicating their workout sessions and times to like certain gods or certain energies, like a time of devotion almost. For me personally, it's a time of like really big spiritual information integration with the body practices. Like there's a lot of big wisdoms I receive with those, and so I like very intentionally will go into a workout to integrate something that I can't quite put into words. So that's been a part of my work for that, but that's what that opposition is like big conversations within that area. Today we're in just these big crossovers that are happening, some big oppositions and some change in positions too, honestly, because we're being asked to retrieve, leave, and then fight for more. It might not be a fight. It might be a walk. It might be a talk. It might be a creation. It could also be something that you're fighting for yourself because it's time for you to win. So however you're moving through this, make sure that you're moving how you need to move, because we're all in a different season and every season has a different reason, even with the transits being so serious. So good luck with everything too. If this is a day of like big oppositions for you, hopefully if there's someone who's in opposition to you and they are like making things more difficult, these oppositions are not really meant to be hard. They're not meant to be hard, although they could cause miscommunications, especially if you are looking at strategizing and trajectory. Say you're like at work and you're strategizing and there's trajectory stuff that you're looking at and you're having to talk with other people, and for whatever reason the messages are just not getting through. This could be a day that if you are working in that sort of energy, there could be some miscommunications, but because of the energy, it'll probably be easy to resolve it as long as there's no like thickness in the head. as long as the other person is willing to work with you to help there be resolve, because this moon in opposition to Jupiter really is, again, best friends sitting across the table from each other. Also, best friends sitting across the table from each other is a little schemy. I'll leave it there. Congratulations to you if you're working through those oppositions. And also gratitude, reverence, and love to you. Thank you for hanging out and for being here. Gratitude, reverence, and love to the indigenous spirits of this land and this earth where I am and where you are. That is true. Gratitude, reverence, and love to you. If you want to hang out some more updates, more everything magic, astrology related, there's going to be more videos on the channel. Keep doing what you need to do. Keep up your brew. I'll talk to you next time.